Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Amitha. Join us weekly to get inspired towards positive change within you and within your community. Immigration has made Canada as beautiful and strong as we know it today. Without immigration, a shrinking labor force, a weaker economic growth, and funding challenges would be there. Immigration has brought into Canada people from many nationalities who are changing its landscape. Our very special guest today will enlighten us on the policies around immigration. An immigrant turned Canadian citizen, he's a lawyer, an MP, and the current Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship for the Government of Canada. He's the first Somali Canadian to serve in the government cabinet. It's my pleasure to welcome to our show Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Minister of the Government of Canada, the Honorable Mr. Ahmed Hussen. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're an immigrant yourself.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your journey from being an immigrant to the leadership positions thus far.
Well, I think my story is a great example of Canadian generosity and Canadian success at embracing newcomers and enabling them to succeed in Canada and contribute to Canada as new Canadians. And I came to Canada as a young refugee in 1993, and I faced the same struggles as any newcomer would face starting a new life in a new country. But I must say that Canadians are very generous people. They embrace newcomers, they welcome people. And I was helped a lot by employers, by my neighbors, by my teachers, and I was able to quickly adapt and integrate into this wonderful country of ours and use a lot of community services to get ahead. And as soon as I was able to give back, I did. And I know that that is a very common story for a lot of newcomers. So my story is not unique, and that's what's amazing about Canada.
Amazing. Yeah. So what were some of the challenges, if you had any, at that time with immigration policies?
Well, I do remember distinctly that I shared an experience of being in limbo for a number of years through our immigration system with a lot of newcomers at that time in the early 90s. And so I know firsthand what it is like to go through an immigration backlog system. And so I brought that personal experience to my job now as Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship to really get rid of those backlogs, because each and every one who's experiencing an immigration backlog, it's not just another number, it's a real person whose life is being held in limbo because the immigration process is slowing down their ability to integrate into Canada. So as a government, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau directed me to really tackle the issue of client service in the immigration system, putting the client at the center of everything that we do. And that includes getting rid of backlogs so that people can continue with their life in Canada and not be in immigration limbo, but also speeding up the wait times and the process for immigration applications. And I'm very, very happy to report to you that as a government we have done that. We have dramatically reduced the wait times across all different streams of immigration. And we have eliminated a lot of the backlogs that we inherited when we came into office in 2015.
Great. So that's hats off to you when you have taken office. This is one of the changes that have come into place. Yeah. What are some of the other changes?
The other changes is we heard very clearly from employers, from businesses, from communities, that the immigration system was not working well enough for them to get the talent that they need to fill unfilled jobs and to bring skills to create jobs in Canada. And they said that the immigration system was taking too long to bring those folks in. So we made sure that, first of all, that we tweaked the system and introduced new skilled immigration programs to get talent to Canada and to get it here fast. The second thing we've done is we listened to Canadian employers and businesses and communities and provinces and municipalities to try out new innovative programs, like introduce the Global Skills Strategy, which has really fast-tracked talent to come to Canada, the best and the brightest people to come into the country, reduce processing times from 7 months to as little as 10 business days.
Wow.
And that has resulted in 40,000 of the most highly skilled people coming into Canada. It has also resulted in researchers having a much easier facilitative path to get into Canada, to collaborate with our researchers and get a work permit exemption. They don't even need a work permit to come and do research for a period of 120 days out of the year. We introduced the Atlantic Immigration Program that has led to growth and prosperity and an increase in skilled immigrant retention in the 4 provinces of Atlantic Canada. We have also announced the introduction of the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program to spread the benefits of immigration to rural areas of Canada. And we have made some changes to the express entry system to give more points to international students who have studied in Canada, but also to people who are applying through the express entry system who already have family members in Canada. Because we understand that those people will have an easier time and a faster journey to integrate into our country. So in recognition of that, we're giving them a little bit more points. And that system, again, was applauded by the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. In their recent report, they really singled out Canada's express entry system as a great example of a skilled immigration program that can not only bring the best and the brightest around the world, but that is flexible enough and that can be changed frequently to target and to attract the right skilled individuals to meet the current labor market needs in a way that is very flexible and in a way that no other country is able to do that. And so in their report, they recommended that Canada's skilled economic immigration program should be the benchmark for the rest of the world.
Congratulations.
They did have some areas, some further recommendations for improvement, but overall they were glowing in their praise for Canada.
We have more to ask the Honourable Minister, but before that, it's time for a short break. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to the MP for the riding York South Western and the current Minister for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, the Honourable Mr. Ahmed Hussen. This sounds great. The policies sound more planned as opposed to reactive.
Yes.
In a lot of countries, I find like the immigration policies are reactive, so it puts off people towards supporting immigration. But it sounds like Canada plans ahead. And
we do. We planned ahead, and we have introduced Canada's first multi-year immigration levels planning in decades. I mean, municipalities and provinces were telling us, and settlement agencies were telling us that immigration is too important to have one-year plans. And they said, could you please have multi-year plans so that we know what's coming down the pipeline? And so now we introduced a three-year immigration levels plan that has seen a responsible increase in the numbers of permanent immigrants that we invite to come to Canada. And the majority of those permanent residents are in the skilled economic category, people who are coming to fill unfilled jobs. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years in Canada. And so a lot of our businesses need workers to help them grow and prosper, and they just can't find enough Canadian workers to do the job. And so they're relying more and more and looking at us to provide that talent and skilled labor from abroad. Of course, our first priority for employment is for Canadians, but in some of the sectors of our economy, there's a severe shortage of workers, and so we have to do what we can to help those businesses, fill those unfilled jobs, but also to attract talent to Canada that can create jobs for Canadians. I've traveled from coast to coast to coast, and I've seen many, many skilled immigrants that have come through the immigration system that have created jobs for Canadians. And so, it's a huge competitive advantage for us. The global skills strategy that I referred to earlier, which has attracted the best and the brightest from around the world, 25% of those people are Americans coming from the United States to Canada. So we're gaining brains from the United States. And I think it's an example of how Canada is using a smart immigration policy as a key economic difference maker for Canada. And we're seeing how immigration is continuing to enable us to be much ahead of our competitive allies across the world in terms of attracting talent and in terms of attracting investment, because the investors follow talent. And they always say that in Canada, they're choosing more and more to invest in Canada because they know that they can either get the talent already in Canada, and if they need more of that talent and it's not available in Canada, they can use our immigration system to get that talent to come to Canada. So investment follows talent. And so I think, of course, there's always more room for improvement. We need to do more, for example, to, as I said, meet the needs of businesses and communities for skilled labor in rural Canada. 78% almost 30% of Canada's gross domestic product comes from rural Canada. Yet most of the newcomers go to the big cities. So how can we increase the percentage of newcomers who are going to the rural areas? And we've done a little bit of that by increasing the number of spaces allocated to provinces under the provincial nominee program, which does a good job at spreading those newcomers to rural areas. The Atlantic Immigration Program is another example of that. But the new rural program, we hope, will also do some of that work. But more work needs to be done there, and the OECD in its report recommended that.
Yes.
And more connection between the skills and the skills trade shortages on the ground and our immigration system, and access.
The gap.
Yeah, and access for those skilled trades people to have to permanent residency. More work to bridge temporary foreign workers towards permanent residency. We've done some of that, but we need to do more of that. But I think overall we have had a lot of success with our immigration policy, and we need to build on that.
Sounds like it, and it will keep building.
And the important thing about it is what we're doing in Canada is showcasing to the rest of the world that immigration can be a huge force for good in your country, that you can use immigration and harness its power for economic growth, that you can invest in newcomers to give them the supports that they need to succeed and contribute to your own country, but that those settlement and integration supports can also enable stronger social cohesion. So it's a win-win-win, right? And so Canada, by doing what we're doing, is setting up a really clear example of how being open to others, being open to diversity and seeing diversity as a source of strength, embracing the rest of the world is actually an economic advantage. It's not,
Plus point.
being open and welcoming others is not just a nice thing to do. It's actually economically smart, and we're demonstrating that. And the OECD report points to specific examples and tangible examples of how Canada has done that. And we hope in this environment, this global environment of increasing anti-immigrant narratives and anti-refugee sentiment, that we are bucking that trend, and we're showing through evidence that being anti-immigrant is actually not smart.
Not smart for the country.
Not the smart thing to do.
I mean, look at yourself. You are a living example of that. an immigrant yourself who has now come to a position where you're actually changing Canada's landscape with your contributions as well.
Well, but I keep saying what I said before, which is my story is not unique. If you look at Canada and if you talk to a lot of newcomers, they have very similar stories.
Similar, yeah, but
and so that's the incredible thing about Canada.
So
and so, you know, investing in integration pays for itself many times over.
Great. So we look forward to all these policies being implemented. Now the federal elections are just around the corner.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
Well, we're always keen on showcasing our record in government. Look, under our leadership, Canadians have been able to create over 1 million jobs. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years. Mm-hmm. We have reduced poverty in Canada by 20%. 300,000 children have been lifted out of poverty through the Canada Child Benefit. 825,000 Canadians overall have escaped poverty because of our policies. We are investing again in people, in families, in youth, in seniors, in communities, in transit, in housing, in infrastructure. That's the record that we have. We've delivered on our promise to clean up the mess that was left behind by the previous government when it came to having huge backlogs in the immigration system, long wait times to reunite families. We didn't talk about that. Reuniting families is a key priority for our government, and we've delivered on that. Mm-hmm. It used to take years to reunite families under some of the family reunification programs. We have reduced that wait time, and we've eliminated the backlogs that we inherited under our immigration system. And so we're seeing more and more families who are reunited, and we're also playing our part to resettle refugees. Canada has a responsibility, together with the rest of the world, to share that responsibility with other countries to provide protection to the most vulnerable. And I can tell you those refugees also make a contribution. It may take a little bit longer, but they do make a contribution, and I'm an example of that refugees also have a contribution to make, given the right supports. And that's the message that I think we will be communicating to Canadians, that our priority is to focus on the middle class and those who are working hard to join the middle class, help working families to have a little bit more money in their pockets so that they can invest in the future of their children, give a little bit more help to seniors, and enable more young people to get a foothold on the labor market by doubling the Canada Summer Jobs Program, which we did, and build on that success. This is the government that has invested again in transit. You know, the government of Canada was missing in action for 10 years under the Conservatives when it came to investments in transit, when it came to investments in affordable housing and a national housing strategy, which we're delivering on. And infrastructure. Infrastructure is critical to our growth economically, domestically, but also our ability to compete internationally. And so we're investing again in green infrastructure, in community infrastructure, in critical infrastructure. That's exactly what Canadians are looking for. And so our job is to highlight that record. We have a very good momentum going. We know that the job is not done yet. There are people who are still not included in our economy. We need to continue the path that we've taken to have a nation-to-nation relationship with Indigenous peoples, to continue the path of reconciliation and inclusion of Indigenous people in our economy, including women in the workforce. Just doing more of that. And I think that's why we are going back to Canadians to seek a second mandate.
We will find out more, but before that, it's time for a short break. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to the National President of the Canadian Somali Congress, the current Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship of the Government of Canada, the Honourable Mr. Ahmed Hussen. Amazing. Yeah. Well, it's a work in progress that's inclusive of every sector, every kind of people in the community.
Yes.
And we are excited because it sounds so hopeful.
Yes.
Now, if I take a step back, so this is, you're helping the immigration process along, the integration process along, but when it comes to going to a person level, when they have to consult somebody about immigration, there's a lot of issues with unauthorized immigration consultants out there.
Yes.
What are you doing to curb the activity?
So unauthorized immigration consultants were preying on vulnerable people and taking advantage of them. And, you know, we took the time to get this right. We wanted to make sure that we had a comprehensive strategy to make sure that we dealt with this problem. The previous conservatives tried to deal with it and they failed. So we wanted to take the time necessary to get it right. And I believe we have gotten it right. So we have a comprehensive strategy with an investment of $52.9 million to finally deal with this issue by combining efforts around enforcement, better oversight, more resources for investigative bodies, and better information sharing and education around this issue. So we're investing more money in the Canada Border Services Agency to conduct investigations. Some of these cases are very complex and you need more resources to go after these people who are taking advantage of people, taking advantage of Canadians. And so CBSA will get more resources under this. We are doubling the amount of the criminal fine for unauthorized immigration consulting from $100,000 to $200,000.
Nice. Okay, good.
We are also introducing administrative monetary penalties to deter that behavior. We are introducing a new college of immigration and citizenship consultants. They will introduce more stricter training processes, a more robust complaints process, a more robust disciplinary process. For the first time, we will have a compensation fund so that people who have lost money and who have been exploited can get that money back.
Nice.
And the members of this new college will have to carry liability insurance, just like lawyers and other professionals.
Like a regulated profession.
That's right. And the new college will have teeth to go after these people. They will be able to seek a court injunction to prevent people from practicing immigration consulting without authorization. They will be able to enter premises and seize documents. They will be able to compel people to appear before them and provide testimony. And as part of the money we're investing in this strategy, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada will dispatch immigration officers to some of our key visa offices in India, China, parts of Africa and Europe to educate foreign nationals who are trying to come to Canada on what not to do and what our system is like, and also who not to go to for immigration consulting. We will have a name and shame list, and the board of directors of the new college will have a majority of public interest directors who will look out for the interests of the public. And I believe this is a comprehensive strategy that combines better oversight, stronger deterrence measures, more resources for investigations, and more outreach and education and awareness, right? Because people need to know who to go to for the right advice. Because the unauthorized immigration consultants were also ruining the good image of the good regulated immigration consultants who are providing a good service and access to the immigration system. So we don't want those folks to also be tarnished, right? And so I believe this strategy will help them as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir, for coming today and talking to us. You have given us so much insight about the whole policy around immigration, refugees, and citizenship in Canada. And we are hopeful with everything that is being implemented and that will be implemented. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So that was Honorable Minister Mr. Ahmed Hussen, who has given us insight into immigration, refugees, and citizenship policies. Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you for watching us. Continue to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and write to us at spotlight@ethnicchannels.com. Until next week, this is Amitha signing off, encouraging you to be an active participant in your government.